Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm Faisal Saleh, the founder and executive director of the Palestine Museum US. A great pleasure for me today to welcome you to another episode of Madafeh, uh, open house about Gaza. And today we have a distinguished guest I will be introducing in a moment. And we will be talking about one of the Gaza-related projects. Please enter your questions in the QA tab. That will make it easier to track your questions. And also feel free to enter comments in the chat. If your comments are directed to everybody, please select everyone when you send to. And if you're just sending it to me, you can just send it to what do we call that here? Host and panelist, or just host. Okay. And I usually set mine to everyone because whatever we say, I'd like everyone to hear it. The recording, we will be putting it on our YouTube channel in a day or two. So if you want to share it with other people at that point, you're welcome to do that. And at some point, I would like to have some of you join us on the panel and participate in the discussions or asking questions as well. So if you wanted to do that at some point, after a while, you can raise your hand, and that will give me a signal that you're interested in doing that, and then I can bring you onto the panel. We do have some people in the audience at the museum also here. We weren't anticipating that many, but we were surprised that we have some people here, and we're glad that they're with us. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our distinguished guest today, Jane Frere. Jane is an acclaimed Scottish artist, has been involved in Palestine for the past 20 years. She devised the Nakba project with support from the British Council and UNRWA to mark the 60th year of Palestinian occupation and displacement in 2008. During the course of the 2-year project, Jane was artist in residence at the Hosh Gallery in East Jerusalem and stayed in many refugee camps in the West Bank, Lebanon, and Jordan, undertaking an ambitious education program with Palestinians young and old who researched their family histories of 1948 and helped create wax figures, each representing families dispossessed. The result was a large-scale sculptural installation, Return of the Soul, drawing on more than 7,000 wax figures, along with handwritten testimonies, video recordings, and a soundscape reciting the names of more than 400 villages that were ethnically cleansed. The installation was exhibited in East Jerusalem, Beirut, Amman, and at the Edinburgh Art Festival in Scotland. Returning to Palestine, Jane spent time living at Ar-Ram, next to the notorious separation wall, to prepare a large series of mainly oil paintings and pastels for an exhibition entitled The Shadow of the Wall. She focused on the impact of the wall's construction, the sense of incarceration, and how it disrupts the lives of ordinary people under a relentlessly brutal occupation. Trained originally as a theater designer, she designed the set and costumes for the play Go to Gaza, Drink the Sea, which was written by Justin Butcher and Ahmad Masoud himself from Gaza in response to the devastating Operation Cast Lead in 2008, 2009. She devised present project, So Their Names, to ensure that those killed in Gaza were not just numbers. The project is ongoing in collaboration with scores of supports of the activist group Highland Palestine to create a memorial banner bearing the names of thousands of victims. Alongside her involvement with Palestine, she continues to address broad humanitarian issues focusing on climate, biodiversity, and extinction. Ironically, it was calculated recently that the carbon emissions from just the first 2 months of the Gaza bombardment totaled more than the annual emission of more than 20 vulnerable nations. She contributed a chapter to the Becoming Pro-Palestinian, Bloomsbury Publishing, published in February 2004. Having lived and traveled in various parts of the world, Jane returned to her home beside Loch Ness in the Highlands, where she has her studio. What a distinguished career so far. And my first question to you, Jane, is you're a few thousand miles from Palestine. You're from a Western European country. What got you in supporting Palestine?
Yes, it's a question that many people ask me, of course. And well, you know, I'm a Highlander and I'm from the Highlands. And I might just say that we have our legacy of Highland clearances. It was a late 18th century clearance where actually 70,000 people had to it was a forced migration, and they had to flee also in terror and horror, basically. So that's that legacy. And even though it's a long time ago now, and you know, everything's totally changed, but nonetheless, I think there's a little bit of that hangs about. But of course, it's much more than that. And this is what I wrote about in this article that I've just had published today. We have the notorious letter, the promise in the letter from Lord Balfour in 1917.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, those ill-fated 67 words, for goodness sake, whereby this is what I try to say to friends, try to get to understand this terrible injustice in Palestine, that you've got this bloke over in Britain who decides that he's going to carve up some land with a ruler and the swish of a pen, with 67 words, and he promises this piece of land to these other people who are not actually from that land. Of course, there are Palestinian Jews, but he's offered that to people outside of Palestine, and without any consideration at all for the inhabitants of that land. And as a result, the inhabitants of that land, 750, 700,000, whatever, they were forced to flee through dispossession. They were forced to flee through a terror program, basically. And when I'm talking to my friends about this, it's taken me some time to able to absorb this history and to learn about it. But when I talk to people, you know, basically, if somebody was going to throw me out of my own home, this home that I love and cherish so much, and were going to kick me off down the road into some sort of refugee camp where I would never even be able to come back to my home, even to come and collect my belongings, that's terrible, terrible injustice. So the thing is, what so many people don't understand. And of course, because I do understand, because I've had years to absorb all of this, I cannot understand why people can't understand that here we have a terrible, terrible injustice and an unsolved injustice. And I think it was getting to know about the history. Actually, the epiphany, kind of, one might think ironically, but not, because this is about being a humanitarian. I was working as an international theatre producer, and I was working in a place in Poland, working with Polish theatre companies, and I was working with a theatre company called Gazanica. And next door to Gazanica, up in this area of Poland, near Lublin, outside of the theatre, there was a Nazi concentration camp called Majdanek. And because I was staying there, I frequently went back and forth there, actually. I decided to go and visit. I'd never been to a Nazi concentration camp, and I decided to go and visit it. And of course, I was absolutely devastated. I was completely shocked by what I witnessed, because there, similar to Auschwitz, you still had the piles of the spectacles, the hair, the shoes, hundreds and thousands of pairs of shoes. You had the relics of terrible, terrible atrocity. And I wanted to get my head around man's inhumanity to man. And so I went frequently. I went 3 times. And on the 3rd time that I was there were a group of Israeli pilgrims, and I went and I spoke to them, and we exchanged greetings, and I mourned with them, and I really reflected what it must be like to have had a relative, a family member in this dreadful, dreadful hellish place. And they left before me, and then I went out, and when I was getting ready to leave, I followed behind them. And then in front of me, when I stepped out of one of these dreadful spaces, I saw this sea of these tiny miniature Israeli flags, a sea of blue and white. And at that point, I became just very confused, because this flag, I didn't know much about this flag. I didn't know much about Palestine, Israel at all. But I knew that this flag was synonymous with war crimes. I knew that this flag represented UN resolutions, Geneva Conventions, that these institutions had been created actually on purpose to ensure that what I had just witnessed in Majdanek would never, ever happen again. So my mental state was one of absolute confusion. And I realized that I was so ignorant that actually I didn't know very much about the creation of the state of Israel. I had never, ever heard of the Nakba. I didn't, this word, I'd never heard it. And I decided that I had to do a period of study, serious, in-depth study. And I turned to the historians, the new Israeli historians. I went to Ilan Pappé and Benny Morris. They were my first port of call, actually. And then from there on, Khalidi, and to many, many others. And then I found the history so compelling. And then I realized that most of us are completely ignorant of this history. And then one thing led to another. And then the artist in me started to take over, and I started doing all my notes and my sketches and whatever. And then it's a very, very long story how I arrived at the first individual wax figure. But when I did create for the first time a wax figure, and I kept on dipping it into this molten wax, and then finally the wax figure spoke to me, as happens with us artists, and said, "I'm your project. I'm going to somehow represent, or at least I'm going to somehow be a statement for the Palestinian Nakba." Now, ridiculous, me as an artist sitting on my sofa creating hundreds and thousands of the wax figures. I had to give Palestinians agency. Palestinians had to tell. It's not my story. It's not my narrative. I needed Palestinians to tell their story. I needed them to make the wax figures. And of course, the title of the work finally was Return of the Soul. So I needed the wax figures to have Palestinian souls inside of them. And that was done through British Council initially, who decided it was a great project, went to Rawan Sharaf at Al Hosh Gallery. She immediately picked up on it, which was absolutely wonderful. And from there on, in their hands, they were then able to organize this absolutely brilliant program, which then took me to other great people who invited me and worked with me in Jordan and in Lebanon and in the West Bank. And then UNRWA then employed me briefly. That was their support. They gave me a card. I was very proud to be working with the United Nations, as briefly as it was. Fantastically proud to be working with UNRWA, and I'm terribly, terribly angry at what's happened now with the whole these dreadful, dreadful lies against UNRWA. This terrible political situation, because I've got nothing but respect for extraordinary people that I worked with and lived with, because I lived, of course, in many of the refugee camps across the region. So that's basically the story about how the process, that's the beginning of the process. And in order to create these wax figures, I had to teach people. I worked with hundreds, actually, I think, altogether of people, really, in one way or another. And I did that through an educational workshop and in the actual making of the figure itself. But also, it wasn't just about that. It was also about, an oral history program, so that these people that I worked with, and many people, wonderful people that I stayed with, and Samia, I think Samia is listening in today, Samia Houri, who opened up her beautiful home for me and told me her stories, and her friends, they told me their stories. So Palestinians, whether inside of the refugee camps or outside of the camps or wherever I was, Palestinians over here. Faisal, I didn't get your story. I should have got your story. Every Palestinian has a story. And I started to absorb and extract these stories. And then those stories, they went into the wax figures, and to give the wax figure a credibility. And also the wax figures were representing families who came from the villages and the towns that have been since destroyed, obliterated, eradicated. And that's what gave this whole exhibition, this artwork, weight and credibility. And so, as one of our finest critics in Scotland, when the artwork came to the Edinburgh Art Festival, Duncan Macmillan, he said that actually it wasn't about the artwork as such, as a product, but it was about me as an artist being an enabler to carry through into the work the voices of the Palestinian people. And this is actually, for me, this is so, so important, because this is humanizing. I can't even believe that I'm actually saying this. I mean, how is it possible that Palestinians can actually be dehumanized? But they've been so dehumanized through Israel and through Israel and through its whole political structure system, and so many in the rest of the world, and also by so much of the media. And the artwork is very much about counteracting that and ensuring that we really understand that the crux of the problem is in the history, it's in the starting point. And we cannot understand what's happened on October the 7th, or what has happened in any of the other flare-ups that we've had, unless we understand this festering sore of injustice. And I think Israel, in one way or another, and because of its own, because of many of the legacy of the Jews and whatever, equally have, as we know, and as I know, because I started off in a Nazi concentration camp, terrible, terrible legacy of trauma, undoubtedly. But we have to understand this history, and we have to also, I think where I'm terribly sad and angry is the failure of the international community since 1948 to actually try and find a way of solving this dreadful injustice. Once there was the partition, and once the Palestinians started to systematically lose their land by the decade.
Jane, may I ask you a question from the one of the audience people? Kate Messina says, my husband and I were both born in America. We didn't know about what Israel did or what Zionists were until November, when we were desperate to understand why Israel was acting like murderous trash. We have learned that a majority of Americans also didn't know. My question is, in your country, Scotland, that is, did the majority of the people know about the creations of Israel and Zionism?
No, no, absolutely not. And they don't know. They still don't know. And no. And the problem is that we're so influenced by our media, and the media that we in particular read. You know, everybody's got their favorite papers or media sources or whatever, for whatever reason. And so many people regurgitate what they read instead of taking an alternative way into discovering something. And also, you know, the other thing is that, having said that, I've been at this now for a very long time. And so it's taken a long time to absorb and to learn what, with time, becomes a very complicated history. And then, of course, there's our political system and our politicians. And our politicians are, I don't know what it is, but they seem to be so irresponsible. And it's that, I think, which causes this kind of myopic approach to these big, deep subjects. So in answer, no, I don't think enough people do understand. It's very interesting up here in the Highlands of Scotland, because we actually have a very strong network of people who understand the Palestinian struggle. And the more they become involved, and we've been having these weekly vigils every single Saturday in my local town, which is Inverness, since October the 7th. And incredible gatherings, which are been getting bigger and bigger, actually. And we've had some great speakers, and those speakers many of them have been doctors and medics who have worked in Gaza over years. Some have actually been out there quite recently, and they come back and they start to talk a little bit about the history and what's actually happening down there, whatever, and they bring a completely different reality to the reality that we see on our screens. I tend to watch mostly, and with my husband Neville, we tend to watch Al Jazeera. And then we write to the BBC and we suggest actually to the BBC they might like to watch Al Jazeera too, because clearly they're on a different planet, because they're not really not reporting what we see. So I think there's a staggering amount of misunderstanding and about ignorance, and that's a big, big source of the problem. People must understand, or try to understand as far as possible, the truth. And, you know, I haven't talked so far about Hamas, but I need to, because there's no doubt about it. What happened on October the 7th was absolutely abhorrent. It was shocking for all of us. We will maybe never know why Hamas did what they did. Not only Hamas, of course, with other operatives and whatever. We will never know why they managed to get through 5 openings relatively even, simply, it would seem. I don't know. We will never really know the truth of what happened on October the 7th, because as we all know, the first casualty of war, the first casualty of truth is war. And the truth at the moment is so obfuscated, it's all over the place. So, but nonetheless, that aside, what happened on October the 7th did not happen in a vacuum. There's a context behind it. And it is so irresponsible that that context has not been given. Because it's not just October the 7th, as we know, there have been major flare-ups and there has been major carnage in Israel's asymmetrical wars against the Palestinian people. And it is very much as the historian says, the Israeli historian says, Ilan Pappy, he's written a book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. And I do have this absolutely horrendous feeling that this is just further ethnic cleansing of Palestinians that began in 1948. And this is like from the Nakba 48, this is now the Nakba 24, which is absolutely incomprehensible. It's completely incomprehensible.
Jane, how about we talk a little bit about your current Gaza project? Tell us a little bit about the project with the flags and sewing the names and all that. And incidentally, in the audience here, we have someone from Gaza, actually, and she had lost relatives there.
Right.
And she was wondering if one of her relatives' names might be among the list that you have.
I'd absolutely, yeah, I'd really love to do that. Absolutely, yeah. And I'm obviously very deeply sorry and yeah, deeply saddened. I mean, all of us are. We are all incredibly saddened. We cannot believe, of course we can't. And I mean, I know that everybody that I'm now talking to, I know that everybody understands what I'm saying here. So I don't need to go on about this tragedy. It's like, it's the worst, it's worse than any Greek tragedy almost, isn't it? It's absolutely extraordinary. Yeah.
You
So
want to show us the newspaper from today first?
yeah, so it's
That
the
was
new
interesting.
completely coincidentally, got nothing to do with this chat. This is so coincidental, you can't believe it. So today, this is the national newspaper in Scotland, and they've given me a whole page for the weekend section, which is just incredible. And you will see a work in progress. This is the banner. And this is the second banner, actually. We've got another one. And inside here as well, if I get this the right way round. Yeah, there we are. There we've got that's the wax figures in Beirut, theatre. And that's me underneath the wax figures in Edinburgh for Return of the Soul. So look at that. And there's an article, I wrote 2,000 words for that. That's an article by me. And I have to say, it was the most difficult 2,000 words to write, partly because one has to be terribly careful that one is not going to be accused of anti-Semitism. So I am completely justified, I believe, given that the ICJ has actually suggested that this is, what is the adjective, a plausible genocide. As far as I'm concerned, the carnage that I see on Al Jazeera screens every single day, it's genocide. I hope that I don't now get accused of anti-Semitism because I've called it out what I believe personally that it is. It's genocide. So, you know, genocide by starvation. It's good to say let's just not go into it. So, so I had to be terribly careful about how I wrote that article, and quite rightly. I think all of us, I think we should be very, very careful of how we talk about this subject. We have a great many people, I don't like talking about sides, but we have a great many people, let's say on both sides, who are in terrible, terrible pain. And so anyway, Return of the Soul. I think actually I'm just about to be, sorry, just about to be visited by my cat.
We're talking about the Their Names, the project. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get rid of my cat.
Okay.
Go on, down you go. That's it. Good cat. Okay. So Their Names. Yeah. So Highland Palestine, this very, very powerful lobby up here, very powerful group of people. Every week, Derek Newton, who started Highland Palestine many, many years ago and has kept going with it, he made sure that or encouraged us to go and have this vigil in Inverness. And then everybody came up with ideas what to do in a great many ways, whether it's from fundraising or lobbying the Highland Council, which we've done very successfully, by the way, because on Friday, on the 15th, the other day, the Highland Council has actually called for an immediate ceasefire and a permanent ceasefire. And not many councils across the UK have done that, but the Highland Council have done that. And that's a really major victory, because it didn't start off like that, but now that's what they're calling for, immediate ceasefire. So anyway, I was invited with a group of people as an artist, and having done Return of the Soul, whatever, what could I do? And I'm probably going to get quite emotional here, because actually when I decided immediately what I wanted to do, I wanted to work with names, obviously, and I wanted to work with the colors of the Palestinian flag. And it's the first time I've ever started an art project, and I never had to think about it. I went straight home, got pen and paper, and the idea flowed through me. And the idea, I think I might have frozen there. No, the idea came to me from my very, very great friend, the absolutely wonderful artist, Leila Shawa, who very sadly died just over a year and a bit ago. And I felt she, of course, was from a big family from Gaza.
Jane, you probably don't know this, but one of her famous paintings is among the art exhibit that will be opening in Venice on April 20th. And I will share it with you in the audience.
Wow, that's so beautiful, because I believe that Leila was actually speaking to me and has been working with me. I am absolutely sure she has. I'm so glad that she's not witnessing what's happened to her beautiful Gaza and her beautiful center that she created.
I will share it in just a moment here, but you can keep talking.
But anyway, so yes, so I had this idea to make sure that I got names, that Palestinians weren't being culled, weren't being slaughtered just in statistics, numbers and batches, that we would get as many of the thousands of names handwritten. So what happened? We've now got over 80 people across the Highlands they have a list of the names that have been given out by the health ministry on Gaza when they could. I think we've only got 7,000 names now. I'm not sure, because everything's been so destroyed, so they can't even collate their names anymore. But we've got 7,000 names. Very sad. They have the Israeli ID number, because every Palestinian has an Israeli ID number. So we've got the ID numbers, and then we've got the family names, and you can then see that entire families are being killed, and even some of them have got their ages, the children or whatever. So this is incredibly moving, and people have been handwriting the names and thinking about that, and thinking about who that person might have been, that 4-year-old child, what that 4-year child might have become. All of these, you can imagine all of our thoughts as we're writing out names. And then they're sewn onto a piece of cloth, and then the cloth has been sewn back to me. And my husband, Neville, he's been doing some incredible work with the administration, trying to make sure that they don't get all doubled up on whatever. And now we've got thousands of names, and we've got 2 banners, and the banner, one of the banners is now being passed around from one group of people to another group into somebody else's house, and then they work on a bit, and then they, look at that. Gosh, when did you get that? That's very,
We took a
very,
little bit of work, and it's been shipped. It's going to be shipped from London to Venice in the next day or two. It's called Democracy in Red.
yeah, yeah,
It is 150 centimeters high by 200 centimeters wide. That's 2 meters wide. Um, and there's some handwriting that Layla Shawa wrote on it
yeah,
that I've been trying to interpret it, talking to her brother. And it says, by the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it comes from somewhere in the Bible.
yeah. Do you know
Um,
what year did she paint this in?
I believe it was like 2004.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, before I met
I
her.
could be wrong.
I met her in 2008. Yeah, that's very,
Yeah.
yeah, and actually, funnily enough, do you know what? I know so many of her artworks, but that's the one. But that artwork, I don't know. I've never seen it before. That's incredible. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nobody has seen this before. It was
I've seen it before.
in a warehouse stored with the furniture.
Extra.
I mean, all the artwork was stored separately in an area for art. This was stored with the furniture because for some reason they didn't think it was a painting. I don't know why. But we are putting it in a crate made out of a wooden crate, and
Yeah,
it's going to be shipped
yeah,
in a couple of days because we need to it's going to be framed in Venice by our framers there. And it's going to be part of about 30 paintings that are going to be on exhibit.
yeah.
But
Very,
this is
very
one of
powerful. Wonderful.
yeah,
Absolutely.
very powerful. Yeah.
Very, yeah.
Okay, I thought you would be interested in seeing
Yeah,
it.
no, no, absolutely. No, we were very, very close, and she was a mentor to me, for goodness sake,
Yeah.
and we were on the phone all the time. If when when obviously when I wasn't in London sometimes or whatever, and also that when I was living behind the wall, in the shadow of the wall, I took a lot of photographs of the wall or whatever, and I shared the my photographs with her for her to do work on. And we went to Egypt together, to Cairo. We were going to have a joint exhibition in we went over there in 2010. We were going to have a joint exhibition about the wall. It was going to be about my wall work and her wall work, her very famous Gaza walls. And then, of course, the Arab Spring and 2011, and that was it. And so we didn't have this possibility. But I am hoping that in the future I'm going to be doing something in P21, which is going to be a combination of our works, because we always want
Yeah.
to.
So
So I'm
for
hoping.
our audience who may not know, Layla Shawa is from Gaza originally, and the Shawa family is a well-known family in Gaza. And she grew up in Gaza and spent a lot of time there before moving to the UK.
Yes, our father was the mayor of Gaza for many, many
Mm.
years,
Yeah.
and a very, very important political figure as well. Absolutely, and also the thing, and this is the other thing that actually, and it actually, it's really made me cry. And when I was writing that article, I just got so emotional because, you know, Gaza, or what we don't understand, we think of Gaza as this place, we only ever see it with refugee camps and with associate it with terrorists and all this stuff. But Gaza has a 5,000-year history, an incredible history. And so many peoples from down centuries have been in Gaza and they've left behind their bits of their culture or whatever. So, and what's been bombed has been the oldest churches, mosques, museums, archaeological sites, you know, and where's the noise about that? You know, it's not just eradicating a people, we're eradicating an entire history, and a history that's belongs to humanity. And that's just been completely eradicated in, what is it, 5 months or something? I mean, thousands of years of history and heritage. And Layla was the one who introduced me to that. She had these beautiful books and whatever. And you know, she was introducing me to because she loved Gaza with a passion. And her beautiful house that she had, which was bombed, she had a beautiful black and white photograph of this Ottoman building, very, very elegant Ottoman building, and a wonderful outdoor staircase. And her father was there with President Carter coming down this stairway in this beautiful house, and that's been bombed. And so, you know, we're talking about a crime, a really, really terrible crime. What's happened lately.
And Jane, it was very, very important for me to get that painting out and get it in Venice so the world could see it, because I knew that Layla would want to see it there.
She so would want to see it there completely. Faisal, yeah, absolutely.
We have 4 deceased artists that are represented in the exhibit. Besides, you know, there are 3 others besides Layla, and they have magnificent works. Um, they're all big together there, along with 24 other living artists, including 2 living artists from Gaza who are in Rafah now.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. I mean, that's the best, and all you can do, really. Yeah,
and that's the exhibit that the Venice Biennale rejected and refused to accept. So
right.
we are
Rejected.
the Venice Biennale.
They
rejected our exhibit.
So what is it going to be done?
Well, we're going to exhibit it without them.
Yeah.
It won't have their logo on it. It won't have their name. It will not be an official Venice Biennale exhibit, but it's going to be an exhibit in Venice in the same place that would have been, and for 7 months, just like the length of the Biennale. And we will have more visitors probably than the ones go to the Biennale, because we're in a building that has 80 exhibits. It's called the European Cultural Center, and there's no admission fee, and people can just walk off from the street and see the exhibits.
And I think from what I've seen, I think a very beautiful room as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's 150 square meters with 5-meter high walls.
Yeah.
And
so just to finish off about
sure.
So yes, so we've got all these people, they've been sowing these names or whatever, and it's going out to you. It's going to Venice. We are going to Venice, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. And
actually, and today I'm afraid there was a little bit of a screw up, I think.
yeah, you said about that.
Yeah, because when the National did this, when the National printed out this wonderful piece for me, they also stated that that this work is going to the Venice Biennale. So actually, what is essentially Palestine 100% names is going to the Biennale.
So this, Jen, this is I'm sharing the graphic of the exhibit, the identity of the exhibit that we just finalized. And the title of the exhibit is Foreigners in Their Homeland, because the Biennale had a theme of foreigners everywhere. And it's occupation, apartheid, and genocide. And So this is what we will be distributing in press releases and things as the identity for the exhibit.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
these are a painting by 3 Palestinian artists. The one on the left is a deceased artist. His name is Sari Khoury. The one in the middle is Khairallah Salim, who's a Palestinian who lives in Damascus. He used to live in the Yarmouk refugee camp before it was destroyed. And the last one is Muhammad Khalil, who lives in Betunia near Ramallah in the West Bank.
Right. Yeah.
We picked these portraits to combine them together to represent the the Palestinians as the foreigners in their homeland. That they are obviously the owners of the land, but they're made to feel that they are foreigners and being treated as if they're foreigners. And that's what the exhibit is about the occupation, apartheid, and the genocide. And how Israel, the brutal occupation of Israel permeates every facet of life and daily life in the West Bank and in Gaza, and it affects the people every hour of the day.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I was a witness to that. I was a witness to that. And I think that's also very important about having been an artist doing an artwork. It's not just about the artwork, is it? It's about that journey that I took, literally a journey that I took, and absorbing everything. You know, I went with I had my camcorder with me everywhere. My camcorder was my notebook, and I was filming everything. And I was a witness on those checkpoints. Dreadful, terrible checkpoints. And, you know, Kalandia was my local checkpoint because I stayed in this place called Aram, which was on the other side of, which was very close to East Jerusalem. I actually stayed in Rawan Sharaf's mum's flat, but they had deserted it because they wanted to maintain their Jerusalem ID. And so they went to the other side of the wall. So that was completely deserted. And I lived alone in a 7-story building in a ghost town, losing its infrastructure, no lights in the street, whatever, just burning fires, burning the rubbish, whatever, to get home, whatever. And every day when I would take the shuttle bus from Kalandia down to East Jerusalem, to Al Hush, and I chose not to go on the shuttle bus, but to go through what was called the chicken plucker. And the chicken plucker was this dreadful barred checkpoint.
The turnstile.
The turnstile, the chicken plucker.
Yeah,
and I know,
in Arabic they call it al-ma'ata.
well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you could get trapped in it, whatever. But what would happen is that people would actually, because there was be a problem with the 18-year-old IDF soldier who was passing us through, this kid, for goodness sake, with an M16 gun flashing around, was getting us through there and would sometimes not get us through there. So it would build up with crowds of people, and it would be terrifying. And, you know, people would start climbing up bars and whatever, and it was incredibly claustrophobic, and I would be absolutely sandwiched, and I would be absolutely terrified, actually. But I wanted to feel that terror. I wanted to feel that discomfort. I wanted to feel what this absolute inhumane existence for Palestinians. And I absorbed what I witnessed, whether it was an old man, very old man who was trying to get through, and the 18-year-old Ethiopian or Pole or whoever it happened to be on the checkpoint wouldn't let them through because they didn't have the right papers, or just being difficult. So that old man, who may be trying to go down and see a relative who might be dying or whatever, would actually be then turned away. Or somebody who's very sick, who has cancer, and would be trying to get through because they've got to go down to an appointment or whatever. Everybody with their human lives and trying to do things and to exist. And I was watching and occasionally secretly filming and taking my notes, and I've never forgotten. And that's why I feel so passionately about what I'm doing and what I'm once again doing. I never ever wanted to be working with what I call anthropocentricity, with human beings and human conflict. You know, since 2020, I've wanted to move on to the climate emergency, which is the greatest emergency of all for us all. And we shouldn't underestimate any of it at all. But after October the 7th, I got thrown back into Palestine, because once you've been there, you can never, never forget. And you will always be pulled back. It's like a calling, actually. One will always be pulled back.
So Jane, how many names are you working with?
So we've got written out, I think we've got about 5,000 or 6,000 names that have actually been written out. I'm now trying I've got 2 banners on the go, and I'm now trying to think which is going to be the best banner for you, because you want to put it on the floor. And I created these banners initially for being suspended. But the floor is a lovely idea. It's a beautiful bit of curation, actually, because actually, if you think about it, these are the names of the dead, and it's being laid down on the floor. And then if you think about it, if people are going to be looking on top over it, it's like looking down into a grave. So it's kind of appropriate that it is on the floor. But it's got to look aesthetically beautiful. It's got to be very, very well made. It's an artwork. And
It'll be interesting to see if people lay flowers on it.
That would be very interesting to see. Yeah, it would. And that's, yes, and it is actually very interesting then what artworks will, how people will engage and how they'll interact.
We expect 100,000 visitors over the 7-month period.
Yeah, no, that it would be very extraordinary, and very extraordinary actually to photograph. It would be very interesting to photograph how people are interacting with that over a great many months. And of course, every single day, we just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've now got Israel that's now waiting or just about to advance into Rafah. And
every exhibit that I've done internationally had something on the floor. The last one last year, we had a 7-meter long map of Palestine, where people can walk on it and see their villages without having to bend down to read it, because the letters were so big. You can read it standing.
Very interesting.
And Palestinians would come and they would go and find their villages on the map.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Powerful.
And also that's something that I did with Return of the Soul, that I had a sound sculpture. I recorded a great many people, young and old, reciting the names of their village, where their families or where they're descended from. And then a wonderful sound designer actually then worked with all of those names together, and it produced like a sound sculpture, like a sound map. So it's similar to you too. And this, of course, is so important to never forget those names. I mean, that because again, this idea of erasing villages and erasing names, you're erasing history.
Now, do you have the names electronically stored so that somebody can search and try to find the name in them, or are they just on paper?
What when I did the sound sculpture?
No, I'm talking about the current project.
Oh, the current project. No, these the names.
Yeah, the names that the pool of names you're pulling from, is that an electronic list that you can try to find, search and find somebody?
Yes, of course. No, we've managed to download the names that we could get hold of from the Ministry of Health in Gaza. But this is a problem, and this is something that I'd like to
The
learn.
relatives were deceased, and I'm gonna give it to her. We're gonna give you one of the people here in the audience is from Gaza, and she has some deceased relatives from Gaza, and she's gonna write me the name, and we're gonna see. You don't have to do it this minute, but
no. But I tell you what, though, Faisal, please could the names be written in English and in Arabic, because I've got some Arabic writers, because we do have people
who wrote in Arabic. Okay.
write in Arabic, and that would be
with you in English and Arabic also.
The Arabic's very, very beautiful. of
Later,
course.
you can let us know later, maybe whether you found it or not.
Yeah. Well, you'll send
Depends
it to
on when and all this stuff. So it'd be just it's a long shot, but it's worth checking.
It's a long shot, and if the names are being repeated, they're being repeated. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, actually, the other thing is, and this is actually very, very important, I'm hoping that the banners are going to multiply. I mean, what I would love, and I remember when I spoke to you a few weeks ago, what would be amazing, we've got the blueprint set up. We've got a system to create these banners. We've got the administrative system. We've got it all set up as a blueprint. It would be great to pass that over to you. And if you could then pass that over to other artists across the States.
Yeah.
And then if they could all do banners, and if we could just let these banners multiply, and somehow we find ways to get names, new names. I don't really want to repeat the names. I want over 31,000. God only knows how many thousands and thousands of people are dead. It would be so phenomenal if we could get all those names. So Faisal, that's something I would like to put to you and to everybody who's listening, if they've got any ideas about how the banners can multiply. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Very important. And in fact, I'm doing 2 banners, and then I'm going to go back to my trees and back to climate and to extinction, because I've got a lot of work to do on that now. But I'm hoping that across the Highlands and across Scotland and even down into London, I'm trying to get P21 into this as well, if they can also encourage groups of people to do exactly what we've been doing up here.
Yeah.
So the banners just multiply, just like my thousands of figures started with.
You're giving me some more curatorial ideas as we talk here about what we can do with this piece.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's great. All the way from Scotland. That's just great.
Yeah. I think we could use a few more, but one will do for now.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure people are going to want to come and borrow that after the exhibit and take it to their towns in Italy, in the different cities.
Yes, no, absolutely. I hope the banners will be on the move, exactly. And it is. And also, and what's very important to say is that this banner is a gift from so many people across the Highlands of Scotland. It's a memorial gift, and it's a memorial.
Yeah, you will have to come and see it on the floor.
I think some of them already, I think you might have quite a contingency coming from the Highlands of Scotland. There are quite a few people saying, yay. That means that's a good idea. Let's all go to Venice. So
I could actually probably share with you where it's going to be. If you just hold on a second here. I got to cue it for sharing here. Logged in. That's going to take a while.
And I'm just checking the question. I'm just checking if I've got another question, actually.
Yeah. Well, this isn't working. We'll do it. Not going to work. Don't want to waste time now.
There is another question there.
Sure, go ahead. Feel free to pick up questions.
I pick that up. I'm not very good at this stuff, so but I'll try not to to muck it all up. I'm very bad at this technology, really. But okay, so this is from Catherine Smythe. Zaj. I can't quite pronounce your surname, I'm sorry. I put this in the chat first. On October 29th, 2023, I participated in a Palestine Children's Relief Fund, PCRF, Walk for Gaza in Cleveland. I was given a sign with the name of a child killed in those early weeks that I carried during the walk. His name is Omar Ahmed Nawaf al-Najjar. He was 3 years old. I would love to have his name and add it to the project if possible. Thanks so very much. That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I promise I shall write that name myself. Yeah. And again, and again, you know what, Faisal, if somebody could, please, maybe you could write the name in Arabic as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just love these
The
names.
name you're talking about?
Yes, Omar Ahmed Nawaf Al Najjar.
Nawaf. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
write it here.
Yeah,
I'm
you've
gonna
got,
write it in English first, so
and you've got that
you
in.
know what
Yeah,
it is, which one it
send,
is.
send it to me. Yeah, you'll send it to me,
Yeah.
and we've got that down. We've got that recorded, so we can.
Oddly enough, the other person we're looking for, his name is Omar also.
It's Omar also. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Omar. No,
So I'm sorry, the one you wanted is Omar what?
yeah, so we've got. Wait a minute. Let me go back to my
Yeah,
Q&A.
give me the name again, yeah,
Right.
please.
So it is Omar Ahmed Nawaf Al Najjar, and of course that's N-A,
Najjar,
yeah, Najjar, N-A-J-J.
Jar. Yeah. So it's Omar Ahmad Nawaf Al Najjar.
Exactly. Yeah.
Waf with an F at the end, right?
Yeah. R at the end.
Nawar?
Najjar.
Oh, no,
N-A,
no.
yeah.
What's after Ahmad?
Oh, Ahmed Nawaf with an F. Nawaf.
Yeah, Nawaf. Nawaf. Okay.
Nawaf.
So I'll write it in Arabic also
Okay.
for you.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Okay, but we can, but you'll send all these to me afterwards, so nothing gets missed out. That's a lovely idea. Thank you very much for that request, and that's a beautiful idea.
Get ready for a lot of names coming your way.
Well, yes, and I mean and this is what I mean, though. Actually,
Yeah.
this is why we need to have somebody else starting up with a
Yeah,
banner
yeah,
near
definitely.
to home, nearer to home, yeah, and or wherever home is, and
Every town needs to have to make a flag and put names on.
do it, and also
A
because
lot of-
you've got such a massive diaspora.
Mm.
There, and I think especially in your area as well, and so I think this would be a very beautiful memorial for the diaspora, and also you'll have so many people who will be now family members or whatever who will be collecting the names, because I don't think all the names are actually being registered anymore, because you know
Yeah.
Gaza has been virtually obliterated, and I don't know how it's going to function.
So we have about 15 minutes or so left to talk. If anybody from the audience would like to join our panel, please raise your hand. Click on the raise hand thing in the bottom of the screen, and I'll bring you to the panel. Is anybody in the museum audience here that has a question or would like to say something? Why don't you come here next to me? On that side, on that side.
And maybe in the chat as well. I think there might
This way here. Okay, and let me just change the take the pin away. Okay, so please introduce yourself.
So my name is Ola Ziara.
Louder.
I'm from Gaza. I'm a pediatrician, and I'm currently a Humphrey Fellow at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. I arrived here in August last year, so 2 months before October 7. And I feel it's been like 2 years, honestly, going through all of this pain. I'm very thankful to Dr. Kevi, who brought me by coincidence today. I'm visiting my friends in New Haven, and I just came here to know that there is a beautiful Palestinian museum and meet these nice people and be here. And honestly, when you were speaking and everyone and the heritage around us, it touched me. I just like had my tears dropping over my cheek when I heard that we are strangers in our lands. It's almost everything I feel. And being displaced from Gaza is bringing so much pain and tear, because my grandmother was displaced from Jaffa in 1948. She was so young. She was almost like 14, 15 years old. And until she died in Gaza, she was dreaming about going back to her home. She
course.
was describing her house and
Mm.
every piece there.
Did she have her key with her?
Her father had the key,
Father had the key.
had the
Okay.
key. And now my family, they have their keys.
And they have their keys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the keys, this
No,
symbolism.
The new keys,
no keys.
the new keys. In
Absolutely.
the past, it was a metal or rusty metal one.
Yeah.
Now we have the fancy keys, the car keys, the flat keys, and we don't have even like a bag of clothes or beloved things. When I packed my stuff back in July, I just want to make like, okay, I will bring some few of my stuff, precious thing, but I'm coming back. Now I wish I have
Yeah.
10 suitcase full of the smell of my house, the colors of my house, the sky of Gaza, the sea of
A
Gaza.
little bit of dirt.
Had just
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure of the area in Gaza. Has it been obliterated? Has it been bombed?
Yeah, yeah.
Your house has been completely bombed.
So my house, even they don't bother to bomb houses anymore. They are put some chemical materials and put the house on fire. When you go inside and check, you don't see except ashes. So you cannot recognize what was there, what is the house. My brother's house was bombed. He was killed in November.
Yeah, I'm really
His
sorry.
wife was pregnant with their first baby. She got injured, and we managed to evacuate her to Cairo to give birth for the baby because, as you know, the healthcare system is completely collapsed,
Yeah.
and there is no hope for any decent or clean delivery. So we managed to evacuate her outside of Gaza, and the baby Omar is born after my brother's name.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
bit-
That's
The
really
baby is only like 2 weeks now.
Do you have any pictures?
Yeah, I have a picture of
You
him.
want
Yeah.
to share it? Put it on the screen.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Okay.
you have your phone.
My phone is there.
Thank you,
minute.
thank you. Yeah, but thank you very, but that it's so important. Listen, do you know what? It's just really, really important to talk to you. It's just so good to talk to you, and I hope that everyone's still there and still here, and that they're all listening to your story.
I'm really very moved by everything that's happening in UK, in the US, in Ireland, across Europe, because I remember my father, he sent me a demonstration from UK and he asked me, is it a Photoshop? Because people in Gaza were not aware that they have this support around the globe and that everyone is really like looking after them. So I would like to iterate and say, like, keep this work, keep supporting Palestinian. Palestinians are asking if the whole world hears about us or know about us, and
It's growing. It's
just
growing.
one.
It is growing. And actually, do you know what? This is the first time in all the years that I've been doing this work with Palestine and remembering, 2009 and 2014 and 2021 and some of the other terrible flare-ups. I've never seen such incredible cry from people's hearts now this time. I think it's wicked that us human beings, all of us, it's the same actually with the climate crisis, that we only respond when things are really cataclysmic. Ah, that's the baby Omar.
Baby. Yeah.
That's the
Hold
baby.
on one second. Hold this for me. Let me just do something. Hang on. Before you do that, wait.
Just, yeah, bless him.
Okay, now.
This
Yeah.
is
So this is him in Cairo.
in Cairo, yes.
Yeah.
Cairo, yeah, and he's there. Yeah, he's in
So-
Cairo now.
Yes, he's in Cairo with his mother.
His mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Looking very safe and
Yeah.
looking how every baby should be looking. And so sadly, they're not. Yeah.
He evaded the Israelis and he managed to survive their
And to
Right.
hold his mother name.
atrocities and to, yeah.
And also he's survived malnutrition as well. He's survived the starvation, the amount of babies who are being born but are actually now already underweight and starving. Yeah.
Unfortunately, as a pediatrician, seeing all these malnourished babies and being here, it's even hard for me to eat. Sometimes
So your profession, you're a pediatrician.
a pediatrician,
Yeah.
and looking at the horror there, and people are killed over a bag of flour, waiting all night and then being killed the next day when
I know.
the trucks are outside waiting to enter. But it's a systematic starvation that they want to push people from the north of Gaza.
But the other thing is, and I'm just going to interrupt you there because I'm suddenly starting to feel angry, which I often do. But for Christ's sake, what on the earth is going on with President Biden? Because on the one hand, he's giving bombs, and on the other hand, he's giving bread. And this is bread, blood, and bombs. And what's all that about? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
He's making a cheap attempt to gain some votes from the Palestinians and Muslims in the US.
Well, all of that, Faisal, all of that, and let's not go down that political route but it is just so immoral. I mean, let's just talk about morality here. Let's not go into the politics, into dirty politics. Let's just talk about humanity and morality. No matter what happened on October the 7th, no matter what, even with these poor people who are hostages, and for sure they are very poor people who are hostages, and for sure, I mean, actually today I listened on the BBC to an Israeli lady whose son is a hostage, and she spoke, of course, with terrible pain, but she also spoke with great dignity, and she made me cry because she also talked about the hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza who are also suffering. And what she wants is an end to suffering. And those are her words. And I wish I could remember her name, but I can't. She said, we want an end to suffering. And surely that's what all of us want. And where are our politicians who are supposed to be there looking after us? That is their first priority, is to look after us. Where are they? Ending suffering. Well, they're doing so badly, so they shouldn't even be in a position of power. They're failing completely.
Well, nobody should vote for any politician except for maybe a handful who were voting in the opposite direction, who are in power now.
Well, I don't know. I'm
Regardless of who else gets elected, who cares?
I know. I don't know. I just hate politics. I hate the whole thing because it's just such a.
So
thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. One
But
question.
thank you so much. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you so much. And I'm going to write that name. It's going to be very, very precious. And I'm so happy to have spoken to you. And yes, and pass on. And my message is we've got hundreds and thousands, and that we have this little chant that we say that we are millions. We are thousands, we are millions, we are all Palestinians. And that is our chant.
Oh my God, that's
every
beautiful.
Saturday, and we belt that out.
Yeah, there's another thing that says that Israel wanted to erase the Palestinians, and the whole world became Palestinians.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid, there's a lot in that, actually, because people are recognizing the source, injustice.
Yeah. Oops, we lost the connection. There we go. Now, your family originally is not from Gaza. It sounds like they were refugees in Gaza, right?
My family originally are Gazan, purely, but my grandmother from my
from your father's side
is a refugee from Jaffa.
Yeah, so your grandfather's
is Gazan.
Is Gazan, but his wife was from was it itself or a village or
from Jaffa.
I think 82% actually are refugees, and with their descendants, I think 82% of the population of Gaza, if it is 2.1 million or whatever, actually are refugees. And many of them, I write about this in the National actually, many of them are refugees from, of course, very close to the fence.
Yeah,
we have one person. We have a memorial mosaic. I don't know if you've seen it.
Not yet.
It's right there in the corner.
Uh-huh.
It's Razan in Najjar.
I saw Razan. Of course, the first
Ah.
thing I saw when I entered the hall is Razan Najjar, who was killed in 2018 during the Great March of Return near to Khan Yunis border.
She
And
was a volunteer.
a volunteer, and a lot of
medic.
paramedics, a lot of doctors. My brother was a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
My friends who were doctors, they were killed. And there are many hospital managers who are hostages at the moment.
Razan in Najjar is from my hometown, from Selma. She's originally from a village outside of Jaffa, where I'm from. And that village is called Selma. They had 7,000 people lived in it until 1948. And she's one of our people.
Yes.
Anyway,
See,
well, thank you so much.
And this is what
Yes.
thank you so much for that. Yes, thank
We
you.
have a question from somebody here. Yes.
This is what we need to hear, you see.
Did you happen to hear a word,
Do you want to come here?
Yeah.
So we can hear. She's joining us here.
somebody in their
But you're going to say that again. Just come sit here. So people can.
There is
hear.
a man in the United States Congress who is a congressman from the state of Maryland, Chris Van Hollen.
Mhm.
And he talked in a way that I haven't heard for a long time. He was very much mentioning what's in the rules of the Congress operation that would say if the president is aware that our human aid is obstructed, that country should be sanctioned by the United States. And he said, just can someone explain to me why am I the only one talking about this? And it's at the end of the day, I am still puzzled by this whole, I can't explain it based on AIPAC pressure. I can't explain it based on financial and military interest. There is something more puzzling about it. And I don't know if anybody knows, but I think until we can diagnose it, yes, we put the pressure, he loses the votes, he might end up losing the election, but I don't know what goes on in his head.
Nothing. That's the problem.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that like saying he's just immoral solves the problem. There are pressures that we don't understand.
I think there's an awful lot that we don't understand. Exactly. I so much that we don't understand. And it's also, you know, it's all muddied up with geopolitics as well. And there's so much that maybe we do understand, but you really have to dig down quite deep to actually find out, because we've got all sorts of stuff going on with a gas pipeline, etc., off north of Gaza and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, there's some incredible stuff that's really going on. So yeah, so much. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree completely.
And the miserable image that America is looking by weak and subdued by its so-called allied, all of it does not explain. I mean, it doesn't come together. But
Could you
yeah,
introduce yourself before you put
my name is Nadia Nashid. I am born in Cairo. I am an immigrant, and I am a physician, a pathologist. I go to Egypt quite often. One of the best things about my last visit to Egypt, which I just came back from, is there is complete united one voice behind Palestinians, which in a country of 109 million people, that doesn't happen often. And it was a relief because, yes, there is a big support here in other countries, but it's not 100%. And I was happy to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you because I'm not quite sure how much time we have left, Faisal.
Well, we're flexible with the time, don't we? We can do anything we want.
Thank you very much for that. There's one person who I know has been trying to flag us up, and that's Samia Houri.
Yes.
Big Hanina, and a very, very old friend.
Let me get her and put her on the panel if she wants to.
Trying to raise her hand, she says, and she
Okay.
wants to be on the panel.
We have another person who wants to join too, but let's do.
You find
Samia. She's been trying, but she hasn't been able to. So Samia, please accept the invitation to be on the panel. And I will also add the other person as well. Okay. And okay, Samia, please start your video and also unmute yourself. You'll be joining us in a moment. The video screen, the video icon has a red thing across it. Just click on it and it will go away and we can see you.
Yeah, she's from Eastern. Hey, Samia. So, Samia.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Jane. It's so good to see you.
See you.
It's lovely to see you. Eh? Okay. Okay.
It's so great to see you. God, it's got so many
Yeah.
memories around the
I was
kitchen.
just concerned about the lady, the doctor lady was saying, I mean, she's puzzled and so on. It's very, very clear. I mean, as soon as he arrived in Israel, Mr. Biden said, you know, on the ladder of the plane, I am a Zionist, you know. He is not ashamed of it, and he says it very clearly, and he's very supportive of Israel. Why? I don't know. I don't know why. What is gripping him to do that? And even if he's a Zionist, I mean, as a human being, he's accepting all this to happen, and he calls himself a good Christian, I mean, and so on. Whatever, even if you have faith, if you believe in God, no matter what your faith is, it is unacceptable what is happening. But it's very, very clear, you know, Mr. Netanyahu, from first day of what happened in October 7th, and I agree with Jane, this was a horrible thing, but it still does not at all justify what happened after October the 7th. When you think of this, the whole issue did not start on October 7th. The whole thing started 75 years ago. It's an accumulation and 17 years of an open prison in Gaza. People just had enough. And enough is enough, really.
Thank
and
you,
now
Sam.
we see how the world, I mean, maybe it took so much killings to expose eventually the Palestinian cause and have so many people around the world in solidarity, stand in solidarity.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Samia. We have a few more minutes left. So Lynn just joined us. Lynn, do you have something quick you like to say?
Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I was just with Mazem Kumisea this morning, right before you, and he gave an amazing presentation before this Boston group. It's just fascinating, the ongoing changes regarding, like, he was making a correlation between the Belt and Road Initiative with China and the a plan Israel has to bypass that. And it's just, there's so much of this is so insidious. And I'm overwhelmed with input from so many profoundly affected people with such touching stories, and a good scholarly academic review of all the dynamics that are going on simultaneously. And somehow, in spite of everything, this gives me so much hope.
I know how we've
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
descended into a hell in order to try and find a glimmer.
Jane, let me bring it back to you. We're gonna kind of try to sum up our meeting and wrap up. We'll let you have to do the wrap here.
Who?
You, Jane.
I think we're on the road to a very national, an international advocacy about these issues that goes far beyond the International Criminal or Court of Justice.
Yeah, yes, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I'm not, one has to have hope, and one has to keep a chink of optimism open. At the same time, we have to be realistic about the nature of us. Now that I'm very much into the whole climate catastrophe, we have to actually give consideration to us as a species, Homo sapiens. We are such an extraordinarily dysfunctional species in so many ways, so destructive. And so we have to keep that very much in mind. But having said that, equally, there are extraordinary people around the world, and they're becoming more educated. And by being more educated on this issue, they are discovering where I started. 1948, slightly before, and we started up with a Scotsman, Balfour, and maybe that's why you began with the question, Faisal, why was I interested in this? And I think it's it's all coming from history, and we need to know our history, and from there then we will discover truths. And as an artist, I'm seeking truth, and that's been my so-called journey about trying to discover the truth.
Jane, I'm showing you in front of one of the flags with the names sewn on it.
Yeah,
For
with
because you
wonderful.
wanted to see what it looked like.
Yeah, you've got, yes, it's a little bit tricky. I wish I had some more photographs to show. And also you're there with Sarah Beddington, the wonderful filmmaker, done a beautiful film.
Yeah.
So Fadia's Tree. But also one thing I would like to show as well, this is also very important. This book, Becoming Pro-Palestinian, which has just been published by Bloomsbury. And it's like a who's who of Palestinian activists, doctors, historians, philosophers, artists, filmmakers, from all over the world. I'm the only one from Scotland here. We've got another one from England, but otherwise from all over the world. Also with Ilan Pappy inside here, and the extraordinary Israeli journalist Amira Haas. So I'm very proud to be alongside them. And edited by Rosemary Saigi in Beirut. And so this book I'm flagging up, and it's only published 2 weeks ago by Bloomsbury, and it's been published with a whisper. No one's talking about it. It's almost like a cancellation. So I'm flagging it up, and we're looking for people. I'm sure Bloomsbury actually looking for people to do some.
Then behind me, I just want to point out that this painting that's behind me is by a Gaza artist. His name is Faisal Hassani. It was painted in 2000 and looks like 2017. And it was donated to the museum by the artist. And unfortunately, the artist was injured during the bombings, and he was in Khan Yunis Hospital for quite some time. I have not tried to track him down again, and I'm hoping that he's doing
survived.
and hopefully him and all the other artists are safe.
Yes, yes.
The title of this painting is the Farewell. And it shows a woman holding a dead child. It's very striking.
Yes, it's like and of course this is like the Pieta.
Yeah.
This is the mother of Christ and holding the dead Christ. And actually we're now coming up for Easter as well. And so it has resonances right across all religions. And you know, I think my only hope for the rest of my life while I'm on this planet is that somehow human beings can resolve their differences. And yeah, it's like that Israeli lady said, let's just end the pain, for God's sake, you know? Somehow we've got to end the pain.
This artist lost two of his sons this past year in 2003 at two different times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up here. It's been a very interesting conversation, certainly, and we've had additional audience people. I just want to give me a second to show them to other audience who are in other parts of the world. Give me 1 second here. So if we look that way,
Yes. Hi. Hello.
here are the people in the audience.
The wonders of technology.
Yeah. This is very simple technology. It's all done on one Apple MacBook.
I know. Who could imagine this about even 20 years ago or something?
Yeah.
Could almost just, yeah.
Okay, so well, thank you everybody for joining us here at the museum and on Zoom. And I would like to thank Jane Frere for taking the time today and joining us and sharing her work with us, but most importantly, for supporting Palestine and the Palestinian cause. You have no idea how important that is to us and how appreciative we are.
Thank you. And Faisal, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to have this space to talk and to share my experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks everyone. And we look forward to seeing everyone next week, and we will be announcing the programming in the next few days. Thanks, everybody.
One quick thing I wanted to say first is that Gaza has a huge carbon footprint from this military adventure.
It has. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
I've forgotten the calculation, but it's been noted. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Can I just say, actually, just very quickly, Faisal, about carbon footprint, we are worrying about whether we drive our cars or fly our planes. A B-52 bomber burns 12,000 liters of fuel per hour. One plane. So I'm going to leave you all on that note. Doesn't take much to calculate the rest.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. And as we said then, ma salama.
And thanks to Faisal, of course. Faisal. I
Thank you.
said
Wassalam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.